Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Well, Operation Drain Donald Trump's campaign coffers is proceeding apace. The first of Trump's criminal trials has now apparently gotten underway, or at the very least, they're preparing to get it underway. And while in media terms, this is basically a shiny object, there's been this predictable orgy of white media coverage for this former president on trial for criminal charges. It's got everything. It happens to have political power. It's got the glitz in the media. Of course, there's the flash and trash because there's a porn star involved. Oh yeah, this is the kind of catnip that the white media just loves. All the important things that they could be covering, and this is what they want to obsess over because this is okay. It doesn't threaten the status quo. But there's also, of course, the inside game going on here. I'm talking about the one that the Democrats are playing. Now, you have a disproportionate number of black people who have been featured on these white media cable networks talking about this case. That's important. That's deliberate. Because they want for black people to be able to see this and think to ourselves that somehow we have an avatar in this case, and the avatar is Letitia James, or Alvin Bragg, or Fani Willis. They want for us to care about that. They want for us to look at them and somehow see ourselves. Of course, the white media has to mention that there's 3 high-profile black prosecutors across the country going after Trump. They make sure to go ahead and put them up there. And as you would expect from white supremacy, the reason happens to be twofold. On the one hand, we as black people are supposed to feel proud of them for being black prosecutors, though they haven't done a doggone thing for black people. Letitia James cares about Asians being victims of hate crimes, but totally ignores black people in New York. When a black teenager was attacked by a white Latina, Alvin Bragg thoroughly ignored the law and refused to do his job so he could let her go with no jail time. And as for Fani Willis, the less said, the better. That's certainly one part of it. But also the other part happens to be that these 3 black prosecutors, in case they can't bring home the bacon, the white media wants to make sure that they become the face of the failure to get Trump. That way they'll be humiliated by it, and that'll be the end of them. See, that Jack Smith guy, the white prosecutor in D.C. who's supposed to be looking into Trump and the missing documents for the federal government and the National Archives, they're not making a big deal about that guy. Oh yeah, they'll mention him occasionally, but as far as they're concerned, they're not waiting with breathless anticipation. When does Jack Smith's trial get underway? Oh, we can't wait for that one. They're not doing that. Instead, they're saying, let's focus on these black prosecutors instead. Yeah, because just in case Trump manages to slip his neck out of the noose, they'll be the ones who become the face of a high-profile embarrassment. As Neely Fuller said, white supremacy believes in taking both sides of the conversation. But James, Bragg, and Willis, that even sounds like a shady law firm, now don't it? Those 3 jokers, they're Democratic Party operatives. I'm not saying don't be part of a political party, but what I am saying is whatever you do, you better make sure you're empowering as many black people as you can. None of those 3 are doing that, which is why the white media is pretending to respect them. By the way, I mentioned earlier Mia Ponsetto, who Alvin Bragg refused to bring charges against, even though this racist creep attacked a black child. Notice how the white right-wingers were always complaining about woke DAs. They didn't have anything to say about Alvin Bragg. They didn't say, oh my God, look at this case. This guy won't even prosecute a hate crime. Nah, they like hate crimes. That's why. They had absolutely no outrage about Mia Ponsetto being cut loose. None of them said that Alvin Bragg's refusal to prosecute Ponsetto was an example of him being a woke DA and that he needs to be removed from office immediately. They didn't link letting these hate criminals go with the spike in crime in these large cities that they claim is going on, which is an exaggeration, but still they keep pushing that boulder up the hill. Alvin Bragg is trying to make his political bones, and that's what he's doing, and he's no different than Letitia James or Fani Willis. But what all of these guys are hoping for is that this will work out to be a resume enhancer for themselves. None of them has any principles other than self-aggrandizement. Trump's trial hasn't actually begun, by the way. They're still in the jury selection process, but the white media is obsessing over that. Does paying a porn star hush money really justify a prosecution? Probably not. But then again, Bill Clinton perjured himself about Monica Lewinsky, and that didn't exactly deserve an impeachment either. It didn't quite rise to the level of high crimes and misdemeanors. But nonetheless, these are the political games of the white powers that be play. This is how they rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. And before anyone tries to get started in the comments section, I have no concern for Donald Trump here. Donald Trump had every opportunity that he could to try to make heavy inroads with the black community. He decided instead to give lukewarm support, so that's as much support as he's going to get from me. That's as much sympathy as you're going to get from me. Lukewarm. Oh well, ain't that just too dang bad? But understand, there's a long game being played here by the Democrats. And it's not just with Trump, by the way. You probably noticed, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, there's been a few facile prosecutions that Biden's Justice Department has been doing of late. Well, the only reason that they're doing these show trial examples that they had going on is because the black media told you about Kristen Clark and the dirty moves that she was pulling. See, we put a name on all of this judicial misconduct, these people who are letting these white supremacists go or otherwise trying to cut them a break. We told you the names of the bad actors. So they're trying to do these little damage control gestures as a way to give themselves something that they can say whenever somebody points out, hey, you guys, you tried to sandbag Ahmaud Arbery's family. You deliberately went behind the back of that family so that you could try to engineer some sort of plea deal that would allow Ahmaud Arbery's murderers to serve their prison sentences in some federal country club instead of the Georgia hellhole where they belong. That's what Kristen Clark did in the case of Ahmaud Arbery. And in the case of Breonna Taylor, she hasn't done anything at all. So being gunned down by 3 thugs from the Louisville Police Department, apparently that doesn't count as having your civil rights violated or anything else for that matter. As black people in this country, we have things far more important that we need to put attention on, things far more important that we need to get the white media to focus on other than Donald Trump and paying off porn stars and all the rest of it. This is not going to mean anything, even if they can get some sort of conviction. It's hardly as if this is going to be earth-shattering, but of course, that's not what this is really about. This is a political exercise, not a judicial one. Bragg, James, and Willis, these 3, they're hoping to parlay the attention that they're getting into a political career. So don't be surprised when, not if, when, one or all 3 of them try to run for governor or for the Senate or something, or otherwise start trying to make entrees to the Democratic National Committee. Hey, there's got to be an ambassadorship somewhere or maybe a federal judgeship. Yeah, give me a federal judgeship. Don't be surprised if they try something like that, because to them, that's what this all represents. It represents a chance for them to introduce themselves to a national audience. Hey, Biden, next time you're choosing a Supreme Court justice, call me, keep my name in mind. That's their game. So no matter how many black Democrat operatives happen to be prosecuting Trump, no matter how much the white media wants us to also join them in breathless anticipation of, well, what exactly? That Donald Trump's a liar, we know that. That Donald Trump likes to carouse with these little prostitutes, we already know that. What are they going to be telling us that we don't already know? The problem is not that no one has brought Trump's crimes to light. The problem happens to be this is who this guy is. Because when you live in a country that has strict white privilege, especially if you're white and you actually have lots of money, this is not a matter of this guy is committing crimes so much as this is exactly the way that the system's supposed to operate. As much of a creep and a lecherous scumbag and an out-and-out racist that Donald Trump is, which also goes for Joe Biden as well. It's hard to get a full head of steam about prosecuting the man precisely because as black people, what the hell are we going to be getting out of this? I know how this is going to benefit Joe Biden. I know how this is going to benefit the Democratic Party hierarchy, especially if Donald Trump is utterly crippled by all of these criminal prosecutions. I know how it's going to benefit them. I know how it helps them. But exactly how is it going to be helping me as a black person? How is this going to be helping any black people at all? Answer, it doesn't, because it's not designed to. It was never meant to. We need, as black people, for them to give this kind of attention to people who harm black folks. This is the kind of attention that should be going to those kind of creeps. So in answer to a question that the white media hasn't gotten around to asking yet, if they want to know how this whole Trump on trial thing is going to affect black voters, will it interest black voters, get our attention, particularly the younger black voters who Biden's having so much trouble appealing to? If they want to know whether or not it's going to matter to those black voters, well, my jury is still out on that one. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Antonio Daniels, Samora Morris, Vincent Ali, Richard Foster, and Jesse Good. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.